Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Pod. Here we go. I was just joking with my guest before hitting record. I hit record and the brain and the mouth don't want to cooperate, and there was already screwing up my own show name. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. Guests don't always have to do with Christianity or politics. I don't know if we will today or not, but I have with me today Devin Taylor. Thanks for coming on, Devin.
Thank you for having me. That was a great intro. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know, it's not an act. You know, it's part of me just being genuine with everybody, right? You know, it's not a folksy act persona just for the air. I hit record and bam, we go. As I was telling you, people behind the scenes, you could see the sheet of paper I've got, next to no notes there. I don't like to script shows. We just go wherever the discussion takes us. It's real rather than pre-scripted. You know what I'm going to say. I know what you're going to say. And we put everybody to sleep. So before we get to the book, tell us a little about you. You know, cue the Who song. Who are you? Who? Right? Born where, raised where, were you now? All that nitty gritty.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, so my name's Devon. I grew up in Lakewood, California. The majority of my life, that's kind of where I lived until I moved on my own to Long Beach. From there, I mean, like what I do, I was a coach for a really long time. I'm coaching again, so that's funny. I say for a really long time, for my whole life, I guess. It seems to find me at every point in my life. But recently,
I'm gonna interrupt you.
Yeah, please.
I could tell you coached because I could tell you just like shouting and yelling and ordering kids around, right?
That's my favorite part about coaching, I think. It's the shouting and the yelling. It's something therapeutic about it. I don't know.
At any rate, sorry, I could never, my audience knows I can never pass on the tease, the jokes, the lame puns, and the wordplay. So please continue. What do you coach, and then go from there?
Yeah, so I coached volleyball for a long time. It's what I played in high school. I played a little in college, and I just found a liking to it, and it was easy to me. So naturally, I just got jobs coaching. I was the head coach of my high school for 7 years, and then I transferred over to the city college. I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then I had, life likes to throw us on, trajectories that are completely different than what we expected. One day I was coming home from coaching, and I got a call from my mom. At that time, we were living together. We had just bought a home in Paris, which was about an hour away from where I was coaching. My nieces and nephews needed somewhere to stay. And so instantly I became a parent of 4 overnight. So
wow,
that's my story in a nutshell. But
okay,
becoming a parent led to so much.
Yeah, this is right. This is me in a nutshell. Right? Trying to get out of the nutshell. Yeah, that'll work better on video. If you go behind the scenes video rather than hearing that on the audio, it loses it when you don't see the visual. At any rate, so you were actually a coach. You actually got paid. Unlike me, I played hockey, so I then officiated hockey and also was a coach for some hockey. But as a volunteer. I never got paid. I got paid to referee, but I never got paid to coach.
It's so funny you say that because I've been thinking about getting into that side of it. I hear there's a lot of, you're dealing with the parents, you're dealing with the kids, so there's a lot of like, towards the referees.
Yes.
So I don't, I've coached for so long and I've dealt with parents from that angle. So I'm interested to see what it would be like, but I've been thinking about reffing too. It seems like a cool little gig just to get you up in the game.
Well, again, just natural flowing discussion. I never know what rabbit hole will open up. So I will now tell the audience behind the scenes, we happen to be recording on Monday, November the 4th, the day before the election. You're not here to discuss that at all. But
I don't know if anyone would want to hear.
Yeah. Well, my point I was going to lead to was yesterday, the Lions game, I was screaming at my TV at the restaurant. They threw out Branch for a hit supposedly to the head. They threw a flag. I agree wholeheartedly it should have been a penalty, but then New York looked at it and ejected him from the game, which is ridiculous. And the game right afterwards, Rams, Falcons or Titans, I don't remember, but the Rams, they were ahead. They allowed the game to get tied up, but then they won it in overtime. But the very end of that game, there was almost an identical play. Whomever they were playing hit the Ram player exactly the same way. No ejection, not even a flag. And it's like they both left their feet before the ball would have been caught. And not knowing they would drop it, and they probably wouldn't have dropped it if they wouldn't have hit them, right? But once you leave your feet, how are you supposed to stop in midair or change your trajectory? You don't got booster rockets, right, to change your trajectory. So a penalty, fine. Should have been in both games, needs to be called equally, right?
And that's the thing about refereeing is I've had an instance like that where I had a referee not call a call for the other team but made the call clearly on our side, and that's where it would get real tricky, is when you can't have that,
Then you question, are you related to someone? What's going on here? Is there a bias, or was it just a coincidental happenstance that you had a slightly different angle at the one than the other and called the one but not the other? It's hard to know, and parents can't understand that because they've never wore a referee jersey.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough position to be in, and that's why it's been a thought more so than an action on my end, because getting into that, I know once you get in there, you're in the lion's den, and I've seen some pretty, angry parents at refs.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm even back to what you were talking about with politics. Like I have avoided speaking about politics on every podcast,
especially this election. Yeah.
It's just too decisive. There's an opinion either way you go. There's so much going on between each politic. It's a lot, if you ask me. And it's one of those times where I feel like history is gonna be made tomorrow, and
one way or the other. Yes, either way. Yes,
happens, it's gonna change
either the first woman president or the first time since Stephen Grover Cleveland, a non-back-to-back two-term president. Right. So, it's going to be historic either way. One last thing on the referee thing, and then we'll actually get to what you're here for. But
I love this podcast.
I want to be genuine and real with people, right? But I had to call the cops one time because I was being threatened to come to the ice rink and escort me out of the ice rink. But so it can get touch and go at times. But at any rate, and people could see if they're looking behind the scenes on BitChute, Brighteon, Daily Motion, Rumble, or YouTube, as long as they allow me to continue to put behind the scenes videos there. I'm having an issue with both YouTube and Daily Motion right now, so let me make a note about that. I'm going to put the link to the article about all that hassle going on in the show notes. But that's an aside, and indeed, at any rate, you're here to talk about a book, and it is a child's book. So first, give us the title.
Yeah, so title is Icarus Finds His Power. It's got a nice red cover with all the characters on the front. This is a
Oh,
signed copy.
that's different from what's behind you.
Oh, these are the posters.
Okay.
We've got scenes from the book.
Oh, that makes perfect sense then. Okay. So again, for those of you listening on audio, well, you missed out.
You're missing out, guys. You gotta see the visuals.
Obviously, I do usually ask this at the end. Now, it's on Amazon, right?
Yes.
So obviously people could go to Amazon and there's probably the peek inside option. They can see the first couple of pages and everything. So we kind of got that out of the way. But yeah, I'm glad you held up the book cover so we all could understand why there's a difference there, what's going on there in the video on the wall behind you there. So what year did it come out?
You know what? It's been a year now, so I want to say it came out in 2023. Let me just double check. Yeah, 2023. It's been a year, which is kind of like surreal to say because this was never really the plan initially. This was me kind of going back to say to myself, like, what is it that you truly feel like you were called here to do? How are you supposed to inspire people?
Yeah. And I hear you when I talk about my books, right? Terror Strikes, that came out in 2022. My fifth one came out this year.
Oh, congrats.
Two actually this year. But I'm like, we're talking about that book. It's like at the same time, it seems like yesterday. And on the other hand, at times, right, like Einstein said, time is relative. He's right. At other times, it seems like forever ago, right? But I'm guessing, don't want to assume, so I'll ask as a question. You probably wouldn't have happened if the 4 kids wouldn't have landed up in your lap.
Oh, absolutely. I accredit them so much to how they've changed my life and just inspired me to become the better version of myself. And not like I wasn't doing that before, but there are so many things in life that we don't really pay attention to or we don't go after because we don't feel we can do it or we don't believe in ourselves enough. And writing a book was definitely something I didn't believe I could do, nor did I think anyone would care.
You needed my How to Write a Book and Get It Published book.
Yeah, absolutely. Just any kind of resource to say that you can do this.
Yeah.
And, when it's not really in the forefront of your mind, it's not something that you're thinking about constantly. It's hard to make something come to life. And I wasn't thinking about it because I wasn't really thinking beyond me before I got the kids. And they were a great way of breaking me out of that. Like there's you and then there's beyond you and what you are truly here to accomplish. So.
Yeah, and now you see why I like the green screen. I changed my background since I dropped two of my book titles. I figured I should put up the background temporarily with 3 of my 5 up there. At any rate, because this is about you, not me.
I love it. This is great. This is even great. You know what I've been noticing a lot of the times when I'm meeting with other people that have podcasts, it's just also getting ideas too. Like, that is a great idea. Like now I have 3 visuals for your books. Now I know what I need to read next. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What target age range? Now, like my Terror Strikes, people might think it an adult content, but I wrote it in a way so that middle schoolers and high schoolers could read it to get the historical parts of the historical fiction, or as I call it, faction book. And you need to invent a word for your genre. It gets you some extra publicity.
Right.
There's a free tip.
Oh, thank you.
But at any rate, all kidding is, well, I was going to say all kidding aside. No, I'm actually being serious about that. But what age range, what target child age range did you have in mind when you were writing and releasing the book?
Yeah. So at the time, my kids were between the ages of 8 and 12, 13 now. So I'd say 8 and 13 are the ages that I would definitely target towards. But I feel like it's a book for anyone. I really wanted to create it so that parents had a way to connect with their children. You know, we don't really hear about parents reading to their children at night. And you know, if that's still a thing, I think that's great. And that's kind of why I wrote the book, is to kind of create that connection between parent and child and bring a story that would kind of help bring up some emotions between both parent and child, and something that they could process together. And, you know, just a new idea on story time and bedtime, and just finding ways to connect, because that's really the idea behind why I wrote it for, you know, myself and the kids. I wanted to be able to connect with them, and initially it was just about creating the story and, you know, having them create characters. But then when I realized it could be something so much more beyond us, that's when it really just started to take steam. So I
Yeah,
would say,
I'm gonna start calling you Aesop or Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, I love it. Yes,
Oh,
that's
no,
good.
again, all kidding aside, I like that, right? 8 to
Yeah.
13. I really like beyond that the thought then a mother, father, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whomever can read this to the child at 3 and 4, and then hopefully reintroduce it and they discover it later
Yep.
when they are reading themselves, because then there's, as you said, that connection. There's that memory of when mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, especially if grandparents are older and they pass. I've now got that connection, that memory back to when grandma or grandpa was alive and read me this book.
Yeah. And you know, the story is closely about a son and his mother's connection. So naturally, you know, you're reading a story about the connection between a mom and a son and just how that bond goes. And I think it just naturally creates questions for parents to, you know, talk with their children about that, can help foster a more healthy environment. And, you know, there are elements of, you know, foster care and Icarus having to kind of deal with, you know, being in foster care and what that looks like for him. And, you know, it's a
Oh,
fantasy book. So,
that's great. I love this because again, that distinction. A mother, there's single family homes now, so many,
mhm,
right? But a mother can never really truly be the father, and the father can never truly be the mother. And that
absolutely.
opens up that dichotomy and that question. And not to get political, but I'm gonna. And there's actual differences between males and females.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that I grew up with. You know, I grew up with a single mom in the house, and for a long time, you know, I didn't really question not having a dad until I was looking around asking where my dad at, you know, and
Yeah.
it made a big difference for me growing up and not having a father in the household. And, you know, my mom would always say the thing like, I'm your mom and your dad. And, you know, that's great. You know, that's
Something they
awesome.
kind of got to sort of say. It's the
Okay.
only thing they can say. But was
Right.
there an uncle or a granddad or a male figure in your life at that time, or no?
Honestly, no, I didn't really have very many male figures, and the ones that I did were like external. So, like, I had coaches that were, you
Oh,
know,
so you had a little bit in your
yeah,
life of representation and
absolutely, yeah.
a male mentorship.
Yeah, and and my mom remarried, so I had my stepdad, but I was a little older, and so that I missed out on a lot. That's why I feel like the kids that I have now, I'm not perfect, regardless if I'm super present or not.
Nobody is.
Right.
Nobody is.
I know that me being here, at least for them in the house and providing for them in certain ways, is going to make a big difference. It's something I didn't have, and
And
I'm
you're also presenting or providing that potentially for kids that you're coaching that may
right,
come
right.
from a family without a father. You're that
So
potential
fun.
male figure example and mentor to
It's so.
understand we need each other. We
Mhm.
are male and female, and we are meant to depend on each other.
I love you said that because I had one of my students actually we were talking to them and they were going through something rough after losing a game, and we were just trying to find ways to help them, and I told them a little bit about my story with my kids and taking them in, and it hit one of the girls a little harder than I expected it to, and she came up to me after and she told me, I lost my dad during COVID, and to hear you say like you're here for us as a parent or you're here for us as like a mentor really meant a lot because I don't have that in my life right now. And I didn't realize that. I had no idea. I just
Now
was
you're a little more conscious of it.
absolutely and just more mindful that these children really
Are
need us as
watching. They're
adults.
watching.
Yeah, they really need us and they really
They're
need to be great examples for them
yes.
because they're our future, and
Right. They are absorbing whether we pay attention that they are paying attention or not, both
Mhm.
good and bad going on. And we obviously need a better balance of far more good examples in their life than bad examples, lest they become a bad example from the
Mhm.
bad they've learned.
Right. Yeah, it's been amazing just kind of seeing that difference too. Like, in my household, I have my four kids, but then going out and coaching, I've got those kids. So just being able to make a positive impact has been something really huge for me lately. And I'm glad that I'm able to do it by writing this book, by coaching, by whatever I can. So
Yep,
yeah.
that's great. You just have the one?
So I just wrote the Icarus Finds His Power. I'm working on the second one. I did
That
release.
was the next question. Yes.
Yeah, I'm working on a second one. It's taken me a little bit more time because I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful about the story that I tell as he goes along his journey. And I really want it to be a little bit more like pulling in every direction, if that makes it like action, more emotion, more all of this. And so I'm really, really trying to craft something that's great. But I did write a chapter in this book called Trajectory, Volume One. This was kind of telling my story about, taking my kids in and having this new life with my partner and us having to figure things out and just writing the book and how it came to be. So it's a book with 16 other stories, 17 altogether. But all of the authors in the story have some kind of story where they've gone through some kind of tragedy. I know one woman speaks about her dad having Alzheimer's. Another author speaks about what was it? They speak about the real estate empire. Another author speaks about how she was kidnapped when she was young. Like,
Oh boy.
so yeah,
Wow.
just a lot of different stories from a lot of different people who have been through a lot and can kind of give some kind of I guess feedback on those situations and be able to help the next person that may be struggling through something similar.
Yeah. You are now the second guest that I've had that has something in a compilation. I've had
Mm,
on Trent Brock, who is also got a similar thing in Breaking the Silence Survivors of Trauma by
wow,
Michelle Jewsbury that put it together. I've had on both Trent and her talking about that. And I'm
that's
going to
good.
reach out to whoever put Trajectory Volume One
Yeah.
together and say, hey, we both know Devin Taylor.
Yeah, please. I would love to set that up. I think biggest thing
Oh,
about,
if you've got contact
oh
info,
yeah,
please send it along. I will be happy to have them on, and it'll be like reliving your episode too, because obviously I'll ask them about you during it and link this episode and that episode and
I would love to. You know, I
all
think,
that good cross promotion
yeah.
stuff.
Well, this whole thing came about because of connections, because we knew someone that knew the person that was putting this together. And so I think that's been one of my big missions too, is just, trying to bridge the gap between the connections that I have in my life. And so, yes, absolutely. I would love to build that connection and get you in touch with Jay and Scotty, who kind of led this project.
Okay, I'll have to make a quick note of that. And I'm stalling for time here while I change my background back. All right, Jay and Scotty. I'm writing that down in my notes. Okay. I generally don't start with a lot of notes, but by the time I'm done, I got a bunch of notes. I got more homework after an interview than I did before an interview.
Hey, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's just more normal and natural to me. It's like you and I happen to meet in the diner or at the counter and strike up a conversation.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't happen like that as often anymore, I feel like. Well, maybe I'm not going out as much.
Well, that's because everybody's buried in these,
Uh-huh.
right? Sitting at the counter rather than, how you do? Hey, hello, how are you doing? What do you think of the weather? The small talk. Nobody does that stuff anymore, but it can relieve. Oh, there goes the mind in the mouth not cooperating again. It can lead to a great friendship. You never know, right? You can never have too many friends.
Ain't that the truth? We're living in a funny time, so I feel like people are becoming more hermit crab than ever.
They are
But
self-isolating. Yes.
yeah, because there's like an easy factor to that. It's easier to just, go in your home and not have to interact
Yeah.
with anyone and
Blinders, shut out the
tell
world.
yourself off. Yeah, but that's why I feel like every time I get an opportunity to speak about creating connections, I just want everyone to see what's happening when you do. Like, this was a connection, this was a connection. My entire brand is a connection. The podcast is a connection. Speaking with you is a connection. So when people are willing to create those connections in their lives, they're going to see not only an upgrade, but just the upgrade of people that are around you. So
Yeah, I thank you, Devin Taylor, for coming on, and I will try to not let the fact that you are originally from California completely destroy any respect I've gained for you over this time.
please, no. Please, it's hard living here. Trust
Just
me.
for the benefit of the transcript, we're laughing. This is a joke. We're just having some fun there. But to wrap things up, is there a Devin Taylor author website or a
Yeah.
book site? All those things where people can find you and what's going on with the book.
Yeah. So I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram at Devon Taylor Author. And that's pretty much where you can find me anywhere. You can find me online on my website, devontaylorauthor.com. You can find me on TikTok, Devon Taylor Author. You can find me on YouTube, Devon Taylor Author. Um, what else am I on? LinkedIn, Devon Taylor, Facebook, Devon Taylor Books and Merchandise. I'm all over the place, but I like to
Uh,
keep updated with just like what I'm doing on Instagram. So if anyone wants to follow the next project, which I'm trying to get Icarus Finds His Power into a movie. So if anyone has any
oh,
connection.
oh. Well, I don't have a direct connection, but my
Yeah.
Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book
Hey.
is on Story Rocket. You
Oh,
want to
wow.
look up Story Rocket. You could put up about your book there, and it gets it in front of the eyes of actors, actresses,
Okay.
producers, directors, whatnot. So,
Story Rocket.
Story Rocket, you definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, that's
And
been my passion. Like, I feel before I die. That needs to happen. Icarus Finds His Power, the movie needs to come out. It needs to be an animation. It needs to be for children, for adults. It needs to be in the likes of like a Disney movie, but I want to take on different art styles and really create something super special because there's so many elements of the story that are magical that would really translate well into a movie. So that's like my
Yeah.
big focus right now.
Well, I hope for you, you find a nice independent studio that'll do it
Mm,
rather than Disney or Pixar or
yeah.
any of
You know,
those
there's
other normal ones. You're just a quick turnaround product to them, whereas an independent studio, if they like your book, they want to bring it because they really care about your book
mm,
and you. You're not just, really small wheel in the big cog of all the machinery. So
yeah.
again, thank you, Devin Taylor, for coming. I had another joke I was going to tease you, but now it's left my brain. But so, because again, we've got to keep a sense of humor, or we'll go
Mhm.
crazy. And like like you said about connections, like I said, you can never have enough friends. And indeed, like I gave you Story Rocket, you never know what a connection may lead to for something else.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I appreciated the experience and I feel like this is it was like a breath of fresh air. Like tell my story, but tell it in such an authentic way. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm sure you're gonna all go tell all your friends what a bleep I am.
What a great guy.
All right, take care. God bless.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless.
In the heart of Wyandotte, he rose from the ashes with a voice like thunder that no one can clash with. Born in the summer of '62, a warrior spirit strong and true, with a pen as his sword and ideas ablaze. In the battle for truth, he's setting the stage. Joseph Leonard, hear the call of the brave, fighting for liberty, our rights to save. From the shadows of doubt, he's lighting the way. With honor and integrity, he'll never sway. In the realm of fiction, he weaves his art, a political thriller that tears you apart. Terror strikes echo, a warning to heed. In a world of chaos, he plants the seed. Cancer came knocking, but he stood tall, a survivor spirit ready to fall. Joseph Leonard, hear the call of the brave, fighting for liberty, our rights to save. From the shadows of doubt, he's lighting the way. With honor and integrity, he'll never sway. Podcasts are rolling, his voice rings clear. In a symphony of truth we gather near. Defending the Constitution, he leads the crowd. In the name of freedom, he stands proud. So raise up your voice, let this anthem ignite. For Joseph Leonard, let's stand and unite.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.